Hi, in this video I would like to show what I found recently about remeshing. Uh, it seems that you can customly control the remeshing polygon size using Houdini's remeshing node, so I would like to show how easily you can do that in Houdini. Okay, let's test that out using a simple geometry first. Let's make so this is geometry, and let's make a sphere to test out. Make a polygon about around this size, and make a remesh. Now at this point you can only choose to set the size for fixed one size, or you can go to the adaptive, but not much thing you can control here. But by using a point attribute called target mesh size, you can actually control, like, customly how much size the polygon face should be at each point, each areas. Now let's try to do that. In order to set the point attribute, I'm gonna use a point wrangle. Okay, and for testing, let's just use the x coordinates to use it for a target mesh size. So let's get the float x is point x, and I'm gonna set the target mesh size attribute for the point to be fit x from -1 to 1 to, let's say, 0.5 to 3.0. Okay. Now at this point, if you look at the geometry spreadsheet, I have now various target mesh size point attributes depending on the position of the x of each mesh point, mesh vertices. Now if you go back to the remesh, right now it doesn't do anything if you are on the fixed length, but if you click the adaptive, now thing will get a bit different. Now maybe it's a bit too large. If you set the minimum to 0.1 and maximum to like 2, now you can see the changes. Now right here it's pretty much close to 0.1. The size of the edge becomes around 0.1, and this here, when it gets to the left side, positive side of the x, it will get much bigger using this value. Now this is pretty useful, especially if you're in like product designs or architectural design field. You can imagine how useful it could be. Now keep this in mind as a basic procedures. Let's use this method to actually remesh depending on the value of the curvature of the mesh. So high curvature places have more divisions, remeshing, and low curvature places have less remeshing. Now in order to make a geometry with the various curvatures, I would like to use a metaball. So first of all, let's change this sphere to a volume and use that to scatter points around like 4 points. Maybe I can change the global seed a little bit and meta ball. And copy stamp. This seems okay as a geometry. Looks a bit weird, but okay. And then convert back to polygon using convert node. Let's give this hue to 5. Okay, looks smooth. Now in order to, you can use the measure node to calculate the curvature for each point, but right now the mesh is not triangulated, and when you triangulate the mesh will not be not that smooth, so I'm gonna use a remesh node and target edge lengths to be like 0.1 and make the iterations to like 5 so that the mesh itself will be really smooth. But right now the size has been changed a bit from the base mesh, so in order to make the size a bit more similar to the original, I'm gonna use the ray to project the points on this mesh to the original mesh. Now it has been projected. Oops. Now I also have to use the minimum distance. Now I think it's okay. If you compare this with this one, yeah, some position of the mesh has been changed around here. Cool. Now at this point, connect this measure and calculate the curvature, which will give you the curvature value on the point attribute. Let's see the maximum and minimum. So the maximum is around 6.7 and the minimum is around 0.7. Okay. Now give a point wrangle and use that curvature to make a target mesh size. Okay, so also I would like to set a parameter for the minimum edge length and maximum edge length, so let's make a null to be a place to gather all the parameters. I'll name this controller. Oops. And color this. Okay. Let's give a parameter. First parameter will be minimum size. Next one, maximum size. Okay, then let's also give a ramp so that you can control the change ratio of the curvature. I'll just name it ramp. And for the minimum maximum size, let's set the range from 0 to 1. Okay, apply. Okay. Now let's change the ramp to Bezier for later purposes. Okay. Now set the minimum maximum at some value. Let's copy this parameter and go back to the point wrangle, and let's also make an attribute, a variable here, min size, and use CHF min size, max size, CHF max size. Let's click here to promote it. Okay, and paste the minimum size expression here. Also copy this and paste it here and change this to maximum. Yeah. Now, next thing, let's bring up the curvature from the curvature attribute. And next thing I would like to do is to make a float value and remap this curvature from 0 to around 7. I could just say 10. Maybe I could first clamp this value to 0.10, then fit this value from 0 to 10 to minimum size and maximum size. Okay, before doing that, I want to use the ramp. So first of all, I'm gonna remap this to 0 to 1. Then I'm gonna use a ch ramp, and inside the controller ramp, and what I want to change is the value. Okay, let's see if it's working. Let's go to the geometry spreadsheet. Yeah, I think I'm having it. Okay, so I'm getting some values, so I think it's going okay. Now after I did the ramp, let's fit again this value from 0 to 1 to min size to max size, and then finally set the target mesh size to this value. So I have this target mesh size. Now this point, give a remesh and change the adaptive. Now, so let's think about it. So the low curvature should have, which means around here, because it's a bit more flatter than these areas, should have less, bigger size. So I think this thing should go to here. Okay, now let's try to change the parameter here. I'll make the less size a bit less, and this one's okay. I cannot really see the difference because the change of the curvature is not that direct. I think you can see it by, let's give after doing the ramp, let's set the call attribute to this val and use the color to check how the color looks like. Point ramp from attribute and use the call and set this to red. Okay, yeah, it's really not that obvious. Okay, let's give a flip. So the red area should have more curvatures, but you can kind of see the changes, but it's not that obvious here. So to get more to exaggerate this changes a bit more, let's use this ramp. to change the curve, to exaggerate the curve. Somewhere around here, I guess. Let's look at the changes. Well, let's set the maximum to 7 here instead of 10. Okay. And everything else should be okay. Okay, let's go back to see the changes on the remesh. Now you can kind of see that the place where it should have high curvature have less remeshing target size here. Also, let's make it a bit more obvious by increasing this value, the maximum size. Yeah, now it's pretty obvious. These areas have a high curvature, which gives less polygon, higher meshing, meaning less target lengths. And also these areas, but these areas, which is more flatter than these areas, gives high, low remeshing, which means bigger target lengths. Cool. Now this is all about it. Let's change the scatter global seed to change it, to see the changes, and now it always follows the rule, like the high curvature, more mesh you have. Like this. Well, let's set the weight of the metaball to around 3 or 2.5. Let's give a good value for the global seed. Yeah, this could be good. Yeah. And to able to see the changes, obviously, before doing that, after doing the remesh, maybe I can do like 5 iterations. I can do the same thing here, the ray, to project this points on the base mesh, which is this one. Use the minimum distance so that it will follow the base shape like this. And finally, let's use the edge cusp to make the edge harder. And let's use the area of each triangles to calculate the to actually color this value. Now, or I can use the, okay, I have just clicked the create size function attribute on the remesh, which will update the target mesh size. So I think I could use this target mesh size to color this block based on the point. Give a color. Ramp from attribute, target mesh size, and give this value around red and give this value to yellow. And that the range was from 0206 to 027, so let's say the maximum is 028, and voila, nice little curvature remapping done. Remapping and remeshing. Yeah, I think it's pretty useful for a lot of purposes, especially the production, physical production, from my experience. Yeah. So that's it. That's how you can control the mesh, the remeshing size using the target mesh size point attribute. Hope you liked it, and that's it. Thank you.